Hi guys, if you couldn't tell, the newest Origin showcase for epicseven has been announced, and this is essentially the equivalent to the big animation update that you'd otherwise get yearly from epicseven. And I've got to be honest, as I'm recapping and I've just gone through the showcase and kind of summarized everything, there is a ridiculous amount of rewards, updates, and changes to the game that I'm honestly really excited about. So without further ado, let's get into it. So first and foremost, I do want to say that the gift or the reward for this live stream was sent early, which is really goofy. But beyond that, and waiting for 3 minutes, the first thing that we're going to be introduced to is an introduction basically to the fact that we're going back to the 6th world. And with this, the first character that we're being shown is this new guard, Captain Krau. Now, to give you a bit of a spoiler, or well, beyond this point, this is going to be spoilers, but in case you're curious, or if you want to stop before you get to spoilers, here's your warning. However, moving past this, Guard Captain Krau is going to be the new POV that we basically enter our adventure with. And alongside this, Guard Captain Krau, who has new abilities and new skills and a new class and everything, is going to be a new, probably familiar face that you might be unaware of or may not have thought would have been introduced into the game. And that's actually a Victoria, aka the Halag Lance. Now, I think this is a really interesting concept because, and as you'll see in a moment, this introduces or this opens up the possibility of the characters, being, or the artifact characters or the characters in artifacts being introduced as characters later, which I think is really cool. But in addition to this, and as you're seeing on screen right now, that also means that Windrider, also known as Renak, I guess, in this case, is also an accessible and playable character too. Now, just by itself, I think this is absolutely crazy because this is something that players have been asking for years. But in addition to all this, we haven't even seen the coolest feature of all, which is actually a little something about our boy Roz. And if you didn't see from the title, or if you couldn't tell from everyone gushing about it online and in Discord and everything in between, Roz is getting a new form in the state of Genesis Roz, and he looks absolutely insane. We haven't really seen much of Roz recently because we had our whole arc with Aiden and such, but now he's back in the form of Genesis Roz. However, we're not exactly sure what he's going to do. So with that, it is what it is. We'll see in the future. Now, that said, we will get to exactly what the Krau and these other characters do later. But beyond this, the next thing that we're being introduced to basically is all the different UI changes and the different changes in general that we're being introduced to. This includes the Sanctuary being changed. This includes another UI renewal, which I'll get into about my thoughts later. A new, more consolidated Orbis guide. They've also, of course, reintroduced Lunatic Draft, but in addition to this, there's now the Ogre's Armory, which is the Goblomu treasure gear that you might be familiar with from the past. Additionally, I think I missed it. I apologize. There's also a class update, which will make more sense later, but it's mostly in terms of upgrading, and you'll understand. In addition to this, there's like a class summon thing that we'll get into as well. But then there's also a new introduction of a Rift, which is also pretty exciting. But beyond all these things, there's also now a new extremely hard endgame piece of content in the form of Trials of the Constellation. And all of this, at least from what I could tell, is going to be coming on the 10th of April. Yes, the 10th of April, as you are probably seeing right now, right here. Yes, cool. Now, there are also other updates that were announced, with updates planning or going updated, or big updates planned through June 10th, or the month of June rather. However, keep in mind that also with July, it is going to be the 7th anniversary as well. So there is going to be a special update for that specifically too. But obviously, as you can tell, what we're being introduced to right now is the episode 6, which is the events before Deech restored the 7th world, and it focuses on, well, the world before the Archdemon, or the world including the Archdemon. Now, again, as I mentioned earlier, this takes place through the POV of Krau, and of course the Halag Lance character, also known as Victoria. But some interesting things to note for this is that we will be seeing full voice acting for this story. We'll also have the backstories of a lot of artifacts being told. You will see some some more popular characters that we remember from the past, including Iseria and Vildred make a return. And all of this, again, also launches on April 10th, which is exciting, amazing news. Now, in terms of the actual gameplay changes that are coming to the game, first and foremost, the tutorial is being fixed immediately, or I say fixed, it's really being revamped and changed. There's also going to be a full system renewal and graphic change, I guess, for this tutorial as well, so that the beginning experience is much better. Now, in addition to this, the Heart of Orbis is being changed. Now the Heart of Orbis is effectively like a daily, I guess it effectively gives you similar-ish rewards to before, like you still have the Sky Stones or whatnot. However, now you can effectively upgrade the Heart of Orbis continuously by summoning. Again, I don't know exactly if this is retroactive, and to be clear, I'm not sure to what extent or what level you need to upgrade your Heart of Orbis to reach max. However, what's important to note about this is that after you hit a certain point, you can start re-rolling for a specific reward that you want from the Heart of Orbis itself. Now, this is major because one of the rewards includes things like I believe it's like a Moonlight 5-star ticket, an 88 piece of gear, and like other things like Molagoras and Bottle of Knowledge, which is all huge. However, keep in mind that this is a once per month reward, and again, it is still cool though because you can keep repeating this until you basically get the piece of gear that you want. And as you see here, these are absolutely ridiculous looking pieces of gear, by the way. Now, and you can see, by the way, this is 23, 52, 52, 52, 46, 52. These are not slouch rewards. These are definitely top tier, especially if you're going to give up something like a Moonlight 5-star ticket, or if you have all the characters in the game already. Now, beyond this, they're also updating the Sanctuary with a lot of the systems either being removed or changed. They're getting rid of Breaths of Orbises. They are now consolidating all the equipment related activities that includes like reforging and all these things all into the same menu. They're also removing any non-85 gear at the same time so that you can reach the highest hunt stage quickly. Now, in addition to this, they're removing the command, the command center or the command, the daily send your units off on an expedition basically activity. And now to compensate for this, base arena rewards will be improved. Additionally, another major change for this is that they are basically consolidating all of the beginner adventurer's path early beginner rewards into this one big Orbis guide. Now, before I go any further, I do want to say that this whole trend of Smilegate or an epicseven continuously changing the UI over and over and over, it gets a little bit tiresome, but I will give them the benefit of the doubt. If they're really trying to just put everything into one single menu, not care for anything else, then I do think this is a pretty interesting and good thing. From what I could tell, it is as though there's no more navigating through 100 menus. It's literally just click this one menu and everything related to rewards, daily reputation rewards, all these things will be consolidated into one, which I think is pretty cool. But in addition to this, they're also introducing things like search features and in-game tips specifically for this menu or for this tab, so that all of it is together. You don't have to keep cycling through different menus and hidden crevices in order to get access to these beginner tips. But as you're seeing on screen right now, it's step-by-step assistance, and hopefully this will make things easier for players that are trying to get into the game. Now, I do also want to say that because of this, they also have discontinued the beginner's hunt path where you get Vivian, or you get, Sirmia or Sigrid, since it's going to be integrated into the new Orbis guide. So if you haven't gotten these characters already, you should definitely do so by the 10th. I'm not sure if the new Orbis guide will give you another one of these or each of these characters. That I'm not completely sure about. But in addition to this, they're also changing the way that catalysts work, which is absolutely huge. Now, in addition to this, they're also... Oh, apologies for that. Sorry, jump scare. It was my alarm. However, in addition to this, they're also changing, what is it? They're changing the way that the catalysts work. And because of it, essentially what they're doing is they're getting rid of all these different catalysts, like special catalyst looks or usages, and they're just consolidating everything into, you have a warrior, here's the warrior material that you need to farm out. You're a ranger, here's the ranger material you need to farm out. And it's about as clear as day. You don't have to do some weird searching through different menus kind of activity. It's just mage, Soul Weaver, like Soul Weaver level up, and that's it. Now, because of this, they are also, of course, going to have to change unrecorded history, and they're consolidating all of the new ability, or rather adventure points together in one single currency that you can use to purchase things. But it also means that because of it, unrecorded history is going to be reworked or changed, so that's now less of a, or not so dedicated specifically for farming, and is more of its own hands-on experience. Now, in addition to this, they've also reintroduced the Goblumu's treasure storage. I made a video earlier, or like way earlier in the past, talking about how although Goblumu's treasure storage isn't for all players, if you are someone who just needs a couple pieces of gear to make things work, well, Goblumu's is honestly fine, because how much it costs to actually upgrade this gear is extremely low. And for all intents and purposes, if you're just trying to put gear on characters so that they don't literally have no gear on, this is a perfect opportunity for you to equip your character with semi-decent gear in 99.99% of cases. Now, they are reintroducing this concept. There is, of course, again, there is, of course, again, a daily limit to how many times you could do this, just like before. But this time around, I think this is actually the way it was before. It is locked behind speed, crit set, destruction set, and health set again. Now, they're also changing the way that Labyrinth works, which is huge. And now they've basically gotten rid of, or not basically, they've completely gotten rid of the whole Labyrinth compass changes, because it was cumbersome and keeping track of all these currencies was stupid. So now it's not so limiting and restricting. But in addition to this, they're also changing Labyrinth so that the gear has been improved, as you probably saw a little bit earlier. Or you'll see right here, these 67 pieces are now being changed to be these 78 pieces. Again, I think it probably would have been fine if they just made it 88s, but whatever. Beggars can't be choosers. However, in addition to this, they're also making it so that Labyrinth won't have to be repeated as much, and it's not as repetitive in terms of content in general. Now, in addition to this, the final change for the Labyrinth is that because of the way that it's being adjusted and changed, they're making it so that now any ancient coins will be converted, I believe, to conquest points, and it also means that conquest points can now be used for the purpose of purchasing accessory charms, which is actually huge for anyone that has basically ever had an issue with buying accessory charms. One of the most annoying things was that you were always limited by how many ancient coins you had, and that meant that you had to do stuff like the Eufiend solo, like the immortal Eufiend farming method. That's basically completely gone and done with, because now you just do more arena, or spend more sky stones, do more arenas so that you get more accessories. And this is honestly huge. Now, moving along, we have the actual UI and quality of life changes. Now, again, whether this is actually something that is successful, or whether it's actually something that feels good to do, I can't tell. We'll have to actually see and play with it a bit more to actually see. But from what I can tell, they've changed the UI. So now it's all just on the right side, or like all the different menus are just on the right side. There's presumably tabs here that you'll click through, and you'll have, I guess, just a one-stop shop for everything. It's not like go to the top right, bottom left, bottom right, top left, like whatever. They still have the UI on the left side, which makes me a bit confused, because they said everything would, be customized. Maybe you'll be able to move all these features into this, but just in general, being able to customize and arrange menus, as they're mentioning down here, I think is huge. However, that isn't the only thing that they changed as well, because they've now also made navigating through chapters in the world map to be more intuitive, which is fine. And honestly, we'll have to see exactly how impactful or how well received the UI changes are in general, just because they've changed it a number of times and they deemed it cleaner and smoother, but I know that there are some people that didn't necessarily agree with that. Now, in addition to this, again, they've decided to consolidate all the different menus. So stuff like accessory charm conversions that you do weekly have also been changed from their previous location, and any equipment related things or any catalyst related things are all in the same location. Now, the biggest change, and one of the biggest changes, especially if you're someone that's like a serial farmer and go to all or do all the hunt events and all the bonus events or 2x events, basically, is the news that now you can summon up to 50 of these you could now do a 50 summon for the steeple, or basically the Forest of Sanctuary. Now, if you want to summon multiple spirits blossoms, if you want to summon more penguins, feel free to do so. And that's absolutely crazy, to be honest. It's been something that's been like a long time coming. And honestly, I have like 4 quinbillion trillion stigma. So if you're someone that's suffering like that with like me, well, now we have a way to use it. Now, in addition to this, we've also been announced, or a new content has been announced. And the first thing is actually the class summon system. The way that this works is that unlike before, where you'd normally just have a single character that you pull for, or you'd only be able to pull for a mystic or something like that, now what we have is a system where you can pull for specific class related, from what I can tell at this point, artifacts. So that means if you only want to pull for something like Elbrus and also something like Holy Sack, you can do so. But while this is cool by itself, they've also introduced the ability to pity like an artifact, whatever you end up receiving here, similar to what you'd have access to in the past if you were pulling for a limited character, or, well, a rate up character. Now, more details need to be seen. However, they did announce that the end super mega harder than Nightmare Raid PvE content is also being introduced. And as far as they could tell, or as far as we've been told right now, this is going to be another element specific activity. Again, we don't really have too many details on this, but one of the biggest things actually that has also been announced, I know a lot of things are being announced, but another big thing that they showcased was actually the hero support system. And the reason why this is so big actually is because they've now given you up to 10 support heroes that you can use in World Arena that have competitive gear. Well, competitive, and we'll see exactly what that means. But you have 10 free units, regardless of what rank you are, from what I could tell, that you can use in World Arena, which will have competitive gear. And that's huge, obviously, because that means that more players can have access to and actually try RTA without being gated minute 1 by not being able to play, like, due to their lack of roster size. Now, Lunatic Draft Mode has also been introduced, and we mentioned it earlier or in a past video. I think it's a really cool, interesting idea. Again, I'm personally like someone that's been watching a lot of Iron Man or Fearless drafts from League of Legends recently, and this kind of goes down that similar alley. But in terms of what it is, I think the most exciting aspect of this will probably be when we see it in the E7 World Championship, though this is also accessible in mock battles soon, which is going to be pretty cool. Now, following this, we're also being shown the, I guess, like a new login event, or it's less so a login event, but just like a new event in general that gives us a bunch of rewards. Now, to kind of sit through this for a moment, I can't say for sure what the exact rewards are. They kind of flashed on, and they were trying to do some like, we got this before, here's what we get now, but I'm not sure exactly like every single detail. But in any case, we're getting a load of 5-star summons. Look at this, we're getting like 5 of these ticket summons now, which I think is fine. But now, in addition to this, like, we're getting like where we were formerly, I guess, getting the 2x hero and artifact 5-star summons, we're now being given or adjusted these so that we now have a limited artifact and hero selector. I don't know if this means that we get everything that we just saw previous to this in addition to this, or if it's just this. I'll wait for confirmation on that, but assuming it's both, that's crazy, and I think that's probably what they're leaning towards. However, in addition to this, I guess in the past we were normally, or I guess in this case, we're supposed to get a free guaranteed 5-star Moonlight hero, including Harsetti. So I'm guessing Harsetti and everyone before will be included. But this time around, actually, we're changing this up. So now we get 2, one of each element. This one is what leads me to believe that maybe the prior reward that we saw was that you only get one of them. So instead of just getting a bunch of 5-star tickets, now you get one limited artifact and hero. And in this case, now you would get one guaranteed Moonlight 5-star hero and one guaranteed light and one guaranteed dark Moonlight hero. Again, the details of this I'm not entirely sure about. This is just whatever they've shown us. Regardless, getting 2 Moonlight 5-stars, one of each element, is pretty crazy. Absolutely ridiculous. But in addition to this, they're also giving us a bunch of rewards, like plenty of like epic equipment and accessories, which again, for me, I'm not sure if this is necessarily going to be insane. We'll have to see what the stats are, what it rolls, or if this is random. But in addition to this, we're also being given selector chests. The selector chests, again, I think are okay. Again, it depends on what you get or how exactly it works. But this event starts on the 14th, which is going to be absolutely huge. And then finally, we have our little announcement or our little trailer describing, or our animation trailer, like showing off the different characters and their animations. The first one is Arunka. She looks honestly fantastic. She does I think it's the Akira bike slide, which I think that's what it is. Looks pretty sick. I think this is a completely new character. I don't know exactly who this is. She looks pretty cool as well, though. I like this whole punch basically someone through the wall animation, like delinquent boss. This I'm pretty sure is ML Surin, or this is a Surin variant, which looks pretty cool. I like her little ML Lua backpack looking thing. Exciting, cool. Maybe she'll be in another speed imprint. And then of course we have this character who I'm the most excited for, who is Robin. And by Robin, I mean Robin My Heart, of course, because she has a suitcase with Uzis and she blows everything up. If she's not a Cleave character, I'm going to be honestly pretty upset, because that's probably going to be a triple S character for me. Victoria is also being announced. Renak, Windrider, MLDB, by the way, is also apparently alongside Ardell, also supposedly going to be characters. And all of this is really exciting.
Cool to check her out.
Oh, Wesker, thank you for the follow. However, something that I do want to mention about this before we go any further is that they did actually showcase some of the new characters as well, or they did showcase the abilities and skills of Victoria and Krau. So I wanted to go over that briefly. But before I go any further, overall, this update is what epicseven has needed. It has a lot of excitement. It makes the new player experience even easier, and it shows that, to be honest, Smilegate is listening. Now, there are some things that are maybe a little bit, we'll need a little bit of easing to get into. And for me personally, that's likely going to be talking about the various UI elements that keep changing. But regardless, I think a lot of what epicseven has shown through this update is very, very indicative of them listening. Now, I don't want to understate or undersell the fact that they did also just have the Tamarin fiasco, but if you can separate the two from each other for a moment, one update can be bad, or two things can be true at the same time, which is that the Tamarin thing is maybe a little suspect and a bit more questionable, but this update is honestly pretty exciting and honestly goosebump level. Now, as we get into the characters, I do want to say it is a bit of a shame, because it would appear as though Victoria was supposed to be one of the keystone or the key mark or marquee characters for the update. And although her little animation here looks exciting and cool, we have a bit of a letdown here, because she is a 4-star Fire Knight, which sounds maybe cool in theory, but then you realize that 4 stars in epicseven basically get no love whatsoever. Now, this is only kind of further accentuated by her stats, as you see here for a moment. So she is a 97 base speed knight. She has 1,000 attack for some reason as a knight and 23 crit rate. She doesn't have the best stats ever, as she is a 4-star. And the second that you read her kit, you kind of understand why things are a bit weird. Now, again, she does have attack imprint, but again, as she is a knight, it's kind of odd. Now, the thing that you're probably going to see here in a moment is that first off, her S2 is supposed to deal damage. It hits AoE and you can soul burn it for more damage, but at the end of it, it grants her a 3-turn counterattack buff. Now, you might think that this is way less text than literally every other character, or like, I don't know, most characters in the game right now, because it is. And if you take a look at the damage here. It's, you know, it's not the worst, but spoiler alert, there's a reason why they're showing her in column 13, and that's because her next ability, as you're about to see, apologies, my throat has been killing me. Her skill 3 is a team-wide immunity to all allies, which increases damage proportional dealt to the target's max HP. Now again, if this looks a bit underwhelming in terms of like maybe a character that can deal damage or be PvP competitive, well, that makes sense. And it also makes sense, therefore, why they're showcasing this character in PvE. Now, unfortunately, her S1 is no different basically, with her having, I believe, a 50% chance to defense break for 2 turns. But that's about it, guys. Victoria in this case is effectively just a PvE character, which is okay, I guess. Not the greatest, not the worst. But then we have Krau, who does kind of look pretty exciting for the way that he is. Now, to be clear, the first thing that we should talk about is the fact that he is a fire warrior and also an Ares. Now, in terms of this, you're seeing that he has 117 base speed. He's got decent HP and defense while also having attack, but no, he isn't a knight this time around. So now, with the Krau that we're seeing right now, you can also tell that because of his defense imprint, he probably scales with defense. But as we see his S3 is pretty cool. Now, what his S3 reads is that first off, he gains vigor to himself after casting it while giving him it for 3 turns. And this attack is an AoE attack that absorbs the damage dealt as health and increases his own personal CR by 50%. Now, this attack can't crit and also pens the target's defense. So essentially, this is a Last Rider Krau S3 without, of course, well, all the special bobs and bits, basically, that Last Rider Krau gets. Now, in addition to this, he can actually soul burn this ability so it becomes a single target effect. But if you take a look at the damage that actually deals, although it scales off of defense, just looking at the damage that like this actually inflicts upon the enemy, this is a pretty sizable amount of damage. 8,000 damage to characters, like 8,000 damage to someone like Euphine, 8,000 damage to Krau, or sorry, to the Closer Charles in this case. It's not amazing, I get it, and he does have defense buff in this case. However, this is without the soul burn, and honestly, this is just a character who I guess like is going to take multiple turns, which I think is pretty cool. But now the thing that I do think is also pretty cool about Krau's kit is that with his S2 is similar to Blue Krau's S2. However, instead of just pushing back, now you actually push back and stun the target by 50% and have a 100% chance to stun for 1 turn. And when the caster has vigor, which is basically you have to use your soul burn or you have to use your S3 for that, you ignore the ER of the target. Now, in addition to this, the damage of this ability also scales with defense, which does make it look decent, maybe not like ignorable, I'd say, but like 2.7 thousand damage is okay, but not amazing. Now, the final thing that he has is his S1, and this is essentially just like an additional like combat readiness attack that also allows him to deal a bit of like drink-esque damage, additional proc damage, but this by itself is honestly kind of whatever. To be honest, I think Krau in that showcase was okay. He's, again, one of the main like focus characters, and he's not amazing, but I wouldn't say he's terrible. Now, in addition to what I do actually think is more exciting, and again, to be clear, Krau could change. He could be insane. Maybe there's a composition I'm not thinking of, but in terms of Krau's artifact, now this thing is crazy. Now, if you are someone that has recently pulled MLTU, you might know that one of the things that TU struggles with is the fact that you need souls sometimes, or you want him to have souls. However, with this new artifact, what you can see is that first off, if you have it maxed at the start of battle, you acquire 10 souls, which is pretty big. Now, in addition to this, when he attacks, you increase the damage by 10%, and if you use a soul burn, you increase the damage dealt by an additional 20%. So if you can imagine, any warrior that can basically soul burn deals a ridiculous amount of damage, 30% additional damage, and this artifact is honestly fantastic. But for me, I actually consider the artifact to be honestly kind of more interesting and more, I don't want to say future-proof, but even more appealing to pull for rather than Krau himself. Now, again, in terms of when we'll have access to the character, when we'll be able to see him, if I'm not mistaken, he's going to be on the drop rate up banner on the 10th, which I think is kind of interesting because I don't know if we've had a main focus character at the start of an episode also be the drop rate up banner. Usually the character is given for free, or, you know, like Aiden or Roz, but whatever the case is, interesting. The showcase is neither here nor there. The character is early and we'll see how things change. But overall, guys, the update was huge. I'm a big fan of what they showcased. Smallgate is definitely cooking. They're not cooking in some other aspects, like not a huge fan, obviously, of the Tamarind thing, which, again, you know, you can have whatever opinion you want. It is what it is. But I also simply just think that in terms of the UI thing, a bit hesitant to go all in and be excited for it, as this is the third time that they've changed the UI. But otherwise, guys, very excited. Can't complain. Excited to see what epicseven cooks up and how it performs. And yeah, that's going to be it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed. See you on the next one. Apologies for some of the rambling. I'm still a bit sick, but I'll see you on the next one. Stay safe, stay healthy. Good night.